What's up? Thanks for bearing with me. I am Herb Howard, reporting live for the Bigs Media. Wrapping up things from here at Soldier Field, where the Bears fall in Week 6 to the Green Bay Packers. Nothing new in that story, right? Another Green Bay Packers game versus the Chicago Bears. Another Green Bay Packers victory. Aaron Rodgers, upon sealing the game with an 8-yard touchdown scramble at the end of the fourth quarter, he looked into the crowd and quite frankly and quite honestly, he said, "I still own you." And the man is just being honest. He's 22-5 versus the Bears throughout his career. Matt Nagy is now 1-6 versus the Green Bay Packers. Nothing changes here. The Green Bay Packers continue to come and dominate this rivalry. Can we even call it a rivalry anymore? Don't rivalries kind of go back and forth, back and forth? You think some of the best rivalries in sports, what you talk about North Carolina and Duke in college basketball, even Cubs, Cardinals here in Chicago, it tends to go back and forth, back and forth. This has not gone back and forth. The Packers have dominated this rivalry for the better part of 30 years. With the exception of a couple of seasons here and there, and that certainly continues to be the case. It was the case for Brett Favre. It is the case with Aaron Rodgers. The Bears have not been able to figure out how to compete on a consistent basis against the Green Bay Packers. That being said, the Bears did have some opportunities in this particular game. The Bears won the coin toss. They elected to give Aaron Rodgers the ball first. The Packers had a drive going, but it was stalled ultimately on third down when Khalil Mack sacked Aaron Rodgers, forcing the Packers out of field goal range. They punted the ball back to the Bears. The Bears took their opening possession straight down the field and scored a touchdown. Rookie Khalil Herbert scored the touchdown for the Bears on a 1-yard run. Khalil Herbert was the starting running back for the Bears today, as the Bears' star running back, David Montgomery, as well as their backup running back, Damian Williams, who was out due to the COVID restrictions. Neither one of them were available for this game. So rookie 6th-round pick Khalil Herbert, who the Bears drafted out of Virginia Tech in April, was able to step up, and he showed himself to be more than capable of being the feature back in the Bears offense today. He had 97 yards, over 5 yards per carry, and the touchdown. He had another touchdown that was ultimately called back on a pretty ticky-tack holding call on Sam Mustipher. The Bears were ultimately able to cap off that drive with a touchdown regardless, but the Bears did have some opportunities today. They had some opportunities to hit some big plays down the field, one in particular on a bootleg where you had Justin Fields kind of boot out off of play action. He said the play was not designed for him to look downfield, but if he had, he would have seen Allen Robinson run wide open in the middle of the field. He said he simply didn't see him because the play was not designed for him to look that way. That was an opportunity missed. There were some penalties also. They took back some plays from the Bears. Defensively, the Bears played okay. They were able to get some pressure on Aaron Rodgers consistently throughout the game. They did a decent job in the running game, but there were plays that they continued to let leak out. They gave up some big plays, some big runs, some missed tackles, and that was both in the running game and in the passing game. Second-year cornerback Jalen Johnson, who continues his ascent to be one of the elite corners in this National Football League, he shadowed Devontae Adams, who is no doubt one of the very best receivers in the National Football League. Jalen Johnson shadowed him throughout the entire afternoon, held him. I think Devontae Adams had 89 yards on 4 catches. For the most part, Jalen Johnson was able to keep him in check. He did not get into the end zone. He did have a couple of big plays, but all in all, I think a pretty good showing for the second-year cornerback Jalen Johnson, who I asked earlier this week if he wanted to follow Devontae Adams. He said, "I absolutely want to follow him, and I hope I get the opportunity to do that." He did do that. He followed him on both sides of the field into the slot, and he held his own against, again, one of the very best receivers in the league throughout the afternoon. So the Bears had some opportunities, but ultimately just not enough to overcome Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers. The Bears fall 24-14. Lots of things to get into from this particular game. But let me bring in the Bigs Media OGs, none other than Terrence, Tomlin, and Eugene McIntosh, the founder of the Bigs Media. Gee, what's happening, my brother?
Another Bears Packers installment that doesn't go our way, brother. I should be asking you how you're doing. I should be wondering if you're okay, and I know you're ready to get up out of there after that, whatever that was today.
Listen, man, I say all the time, satisfaction is directly linked to expectation. And at this point in this particular rivalry, if we still call it that, there's no way you can have an expectation of the Bears winning this game. So I didn't come into this game with an expectation of the Bears winning. I'm not disappointed about it at all. It's another Bears-Packers game. It's another victory for the Packers. It's kind of just how it has been and probably how it will be for the foreseeable future.
Man, Herb, what did you see from Justin Fields today, man? It looked like you talked about that play that he missed with Allen Robinson wide open down the middle of the field. And like he said, it wasn't a play designed for him to look that way. But, I feel like that one play in particular definitely describes why the Packers are on the level that they're on and the Bears are still on the level that they're on. Even though Justin Fields is a rookie quarterback and he's learning on the fly, I feel like that's still a play where you have to be able to see that guy. Your quarterback instincts have to let you know that, hey, man, I have to be able to see that guy if he's that wide open down the middle of the field.
Yeah, I think it continues to be a bit of a mixed bag for Justin. Obviously, you can see his athletic ability, you can see his arm talent. He's got the ability to make all the throws, but sometimes mentally he's just not quite there yet. Certainly, if you're going to compare him to the quarterback on the other side, it's not even close. But even if you
Right.
compare him to Andy Dalton, he's not the 10, 11-year veteran mentally that Andy Dalton is. He can do some things physically that I still think give the Bears a better chance to win with Justin Fields than with Andy. That being said, he continues to kind of miss some of those things. He came off that bootleg, and though he was kind of seemed like he was irritated by the question in general. Um, I don't think that he didn't see him. I don't think that his eyes didn't go there. I thought that at some point he actually did see him, and he seemed like he wanted to try and load up and get to him. But I felt like he thought the pressure behind him was kind of getting a little bit closer than it was. He had made the guy miss in the backfield. He stepped up. And I think that he was worried, do I have enough time to actually unload this thing? Because at this point, Allen Robinson was really deep down the field, so he kind of had to get into that throw. And I don't know if he had felt comfortable at the time, but I think you continue to see him do some things well, but you also continue to do some things not so well. He kind of misses some guys that are coming open across the field in the middle of his face. Just kind of slow with his read. I think that he's gotten to the point where he understands what's happening pre-snap and what he thinks is about to happen post-snap. But when those things change and what he think is going to happen pre-snap, if something else happens post-snap, he isn't quite ready to kind of adjust to what he's seeing on the fly and kind of pull the trigger in a timely fashion.
Bro, we talked about the offensive line with another test coming into this week. Another 4 sacks on Justin Fields, man. What is your evaluation of the offensive line after week 6?
They are who we thought they were. You know what I mean? In the great words of Danny Green, I think the offensive line, they're going to be what they are. And I think that if the Bears are able to sustain the running game, utilize some 2 and 3 tight end packages, bring in the extra offensive lineman with Alex Bars or whoever it's going to be, then I think that allows the offensive line to kind of mask some of their deficiencies. But I think that if they are left to block on their own, then you're going to continue to see some of the deficiencies in their game. You're going to see Justin Fields continue to take some of those hits. Now, obviously, just like we talk about with quarterbacks and whether or not every interception is on the quarterback, or was there a breakdown in protection, or was there something wrong in the route combination, that's also the case with the sacks, right? Sometimes we see sacks and you just kind of automatically put it on the offensive line. That is not always the case. Sometimes, especially when you're dealing with a young quarterback, some of these sacks are absolutely on Justin. He's holding the ball, he's running around back there, he's trying to create things, and sometimes a veteran quarterback just knows when to get rid of the ball, especially when you talk about game situations. He has to get better at game situations. So the end of the first half, the Bears are trying to go down and get a field goal that will potentially tie the game up for them. They got down into field goal range. Justin took an inexcusable sack and kicked them out of field goal range. They weren't able to get the points there. Same thing happens down at the end of the second half when the Bears are trying to do whatever they can to get back into the game. They get down into plus territory, and then again, he takes a sack while he's trying to run around and make plays. Again, I understand he's trying to make a play, and I understand he has the physical ability to do that with his legs, but sometimes you got to understand we absolutely cannot take a sack here. And so, yeah, again, to answer your question more directly, I think that certainly the offensive line has its struggles, and they're going to continue to. But I think there are ways to overcome their struggles. But also, we got to be mindful that every time we see Justin Fields get sacked, it's not necessarily the offensive line's fault.
Man, it's crazy, Herb, because I remember you before the year started. Well, during the year, you talk about, the usually 5 to 6 plays really determine the outcome of the game. And man, if you told me that Aaron Rodgers would have 195 yards with 2 scores through the air, and Devontae Adams with 4 catches for less than 100 yards. I mean, Aaron Jones did have 110 total yards, 76 on the ground, 34 through the air, but if you'd have told me that those were going to be the numbers with the Packers at the end of the game, I feel like that's a game that the Bears have to come away with a W with, man. So what do you think was like the biggest key to the Bears' misfortune today?
I think anytime you're going up against the Green Bay Packers offense, and Aaron Rodgers is arguably the best quarterback in the league, Devontae Adams is arguably the best wide receiver in the league. And so anytime you're going up against those guys, and you can hold them to the statistics that you just cited, I think you feel good about that. You go into the game saying, hey, if we can hold Aaron Rodgers to this, we can hold Devontae Adams, then you kind of feel good about your chances to win that game. The Bears, again, just not able to seize on those opportunities, those 1 or 2 plays here or there. They had the opportunity. They thought they caught the Packers jumping off sides.
Yeah.
Justin Fields said he thought that he caught him jumping offside. He thought he had a free play, threw the ball deep into the end zone. It was ultimately intercepted. They kind of all stood around looking confused because they thought there was going to be a flag there. That's a play that we see Aaron Rodgers take advantage of every single time. He's a master at getting the defensive line to jump off sides, and as soon as he does, he takes that shot deep. Justin Fields thought he had caught the Packers doing the same thing. Ultimately, the refs thought otherwise. Matt Nagy said in the press conference that the refs told him they just didn't think that the defender had come into the neutral zone, and so therefore they didn't throw the flag. But it's that kind of play like that. It's the play where he missed Allen Robinson down the middle of the field. It's the penalties that kind of kill drives for them. Those are the types of things that you come back to and say, man, if you can have a different outcome on these 5 or 6 plays, you can change the outcome of this game, no doubt about it. So I think that, sometimes those things will come with experience. Sometimes it's just about who has the better players for those 5 or 6 plays. And if you've got Aaron Rodgers and you've got Devontae Adams, again, Devontae Adams only caught 4 balls for I think like 89 yards or something like that. That's as good as you can hope for from him. But on those 4 balls, 2 of them were big plays. You know what I mean? So it's like, what can you do to limit him on some of those plays? And so it's always going to come down to those handful of plays. And it could be early, it could be late. The Bears just have to figure out, how to take advantage of them when they come.
Man, Herb, when I was looking at the deck check this morning, we checked in with our homegirl, Crystal.
Yeah.
And, she gave her score. Definitely shout out to Crystal for holding it down on the tailgating action.
Yeah.
But man, when she gave the score, I thought to myself, man, if the Bears hold Aaron Rodgers within that 24-point range, then they have a chance to win this game. But when you look kind of deeper into the stats, to piggyback on what you said, yeah, Aaron Rodgers finished with less than 200 yards, but he was 17 23.
Yeah.
More importantly, no turnovers, man. So what does that say about the defense that in a big game like this, they weren't able to get any takeaways?
That's always going to be a key for this Bears team. This offense just isn't equipped at this stage in their development to really go out and light up the scoreboard. They're going to need help from the defense. They're going to need help from the special teams. I think special teams is getting a boost from Jakeem Grant, who left this game with an ankle injury. The Bears traded for him from Miami, and I think he's going to be important for them in terms of getting field position, in terms of getting returns set up for them. But the defense has to be able to get the ball back, have to be able to get this offense at least an extra possession or 2, if not actually score some points, if in order for this offense to really be able to compete, especially when you're going up against some of the high-powered offenses like an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, like you said, only 23 passes, but that's all he needed. You know what I mean? He hit 17 of them, and I think that, if the Bears are able to, get their hands on a football, I think Eddie Jackson had a chance at some point in the second half for a ball that kind of floated down the field. You would like to see him kind of lay out for it to see. I don't know if he catches the ball anyway, but you'd like to see him kind of make that effort. The Bears were able to apply some pressure, but they weren't able to get any strip sacks or anything like that. And so I think that anytime this Bears team does not force any turnovers, it's going to be really, really hard for this offense to win. The Bears did have a turnover. Actually, it was the interception in the end zone. Won't say it cost them much in terms of getting the ball back to the Packers, but the Bears were driving. That was a big momentum shift for the Bears. You heard Justin Fields say so in the post-game press conference. He said once that penalty happened, it kind of took some momentum away from not the penalty, that turnover happened. It took some momentum away from the Bears. So I think that absolutely is going to be huge for the Bears to not only get turnovers, but to make sure they win the turnover battle every single game. The offense simply isn't good enough to overcome their own mistakes, nor are they good enough to win if it's even. The defense has to get the turnovers for them.
Man, I feel like my biggest takeaway from the game today, especially offensively on the, the optimistic side, the good thing looking forward is the performance from Khalil Herbert. When you talk about him being like a 4th string running back, we don't know what's the situation with Tariq Cohen. Then, like you said earlier, heard Damian Williams was playing well when he got the opportunity, and obviously we know what Demo does when he gets the ball. So seeing what Khalil Herbert did today, I mean, maybe going forward, David Montgomery doesn't have to be a guy that needs to carry the ball 25 to 30 times a game. Khalil Herbert can kind of continue to find his way, and that could bode well for a Bears offense who doesn't need to lean so much on Justin Fields right now. This is a guy who's learning on the fly. He's going to take his bumps and bruises. He's growing and developing while trying to lead this team, to a playoff berth. So I feel like that was my biggest thing today.
Yeah, no, it was really, really positive to see Khalil Herbert come out and play the way he played today. He played really well last week out in Las Vegas against the Raiders. He picked up where he left off today. He said he prepares like he's a starter all the time. He said he didn't prepare any differently coming into this game. Again, he gets 97 yards. He's over 5 yards per carry. He's got a touchdown. That's the type of production you want to see from a running back. For all of the questions or pushback that General Manager Ryan Pace might get about some of his first or second round picks, he continues to hit in the mid to late rounds. Khalil Herbert was a 6th-round pick, a running back out of Virginia Tech, who not a lot of people were checking for. He started his career at Kansas, didn't really get a whole lot done there. Ultimately had to transfer to Virginia Tech, and the Bears found themselves, looks like, another productive running back late in the draft. And so continue to look for him to continue to develop, get better and better. The more he gets to work with Dave Montgomery, Damian Williams, the more he gets to work with that offensive line. He certainly is a natural ball carrier. He has good contact balance. He rarely goes down on the first tackler. And so, yeah, it was really, really good to see Khalil Herbert come out and perform the way he does. I think he can help the Bears going forward, certainly.
Okay, because I feel like it's time to get a little dirty, right? Yeah. I mean, because on when the dust settles, this is yet another loss to your rival. Like you said, I don't know if you can even call this a rivalry anymore.
I put up a poll on the Twitter page. I just put up a poll on the Twitter page. Like, are we still calling this a rivalry? Is that still what we like?
Let me get my vote in real quick.
I already know what you're punching, Gino. I definitely already know what you're punching. You said before, the week started, you said you heard it all before. And honestly, Gino, I can't tell you how many games looked exact. This is a typical Bears-Packers week. You got Aaron Rodgers. Even though he looked slow, he looked like the slowest man on the face of the earth right now. He beat the Bears defense to the end zone, though. I just want to know, like, okay, so who's to blame? Like, is this Matt Nagy? Is this another case of him not having his guys ready? Were you satisfied with the game plan? I know you weren't satisfied with the execution, but was the game plan a recipe for success? And in the post game, what did you think about Matt Nagy's explanations for another loss?
I think that this series, I'll call it a series now. I mean, obviously it's a series. I'm not gonna call it a rivalry no more. But I think
we got to play these guys twice. You just call it a series.
This series has gotten to a place now where the Green Bay Packers just simply believe that they are going to beat the Chicago Bears. They believe it as soon as the schedules come out. They believe it when they come down from Green Bay. They believe it when the Bears go up to Green Bay. They believe it at the end of the first quarter, at the end of the halftime, first half, third quarter. They believe it all the way until the triple zeros on the clock. They believe they are going to beat the Chicago Bears. And so even when the Bears seem to be playing well, or they're hanging around, or they come out and they score first, Aaron Rodgers never thinks that the Bears are gonna beat him. And so I think that really, really matters, right? It starts to kind of permeate throughout the entire team. It permeates to the other sideline. The Bears start to think the opposite. The crowd all feels the same. Like, you can talk to any Bears fan you want. You talk to any Bears player you want. They say, yeah, we expect to beat the Packers. No, you don't. Nobody really expects that. How could you possibly expect that? You know what I mean? You've seen something go one way, 22 out of 27, like, there's no way you expect it to go the other way. And so I think that really, really does matter. You talk about a team like the Detroit Lions, right, where they kind of expect things to go wrong. Against the Bears, the Packers expect things to go right. And so I think that all of that kind of adds up, and you just start to see, one little thing, it's like, oh, here we go again. So I don't know that I blame Matt Nagy, or I blame Justin Fields, or I blame the offensive line or the defense. I think it's just it's a collective. It's everybody, because it wasn't just Matt Nagy. It was Mark Trestman, and it was John Fox, and it was, pick a coach. You know what I mean? None of them have done well. Lovie Smith did fairly well against the Packers, but that's only in comparison to the other coaches. And so I think that, it's a thing where the Bears are going to have to put together two really, really almost flawless football games to beat the Packers twice in the season. I think they can do that at some point. Then maybe they'll start to get that feeling of, we just can't do it out of them. And maybe some of that invincibility of going from the Packers, to where they won't always just believe, yeah, no matter what happens, yeah, they score first. Yeah, we might be down 7, we might be down 10.
Exactly.
We'll come back and beat them.
I feel like that's exactly what it is, more so than the Packers necessarily thinking, everything's going to go right for us. They come in there thinking, no matter what happens,
right,
don't matter,
we're going to end up better than these guys. Like, the Bears can't do anything to wind up on top. It's an automatic L for the Bears.
Yes, it don't matter. Charles Wilson had been here. Charles Wilson had been in this rivalry for like 10 minutes. He's like, Jay gonna throw us the ball. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's just kind of how it's kind of how they perceive it, and it's hard to say otherwise, right? That's why I asked Matt Nagy in the post game. I was like, listen, Aaron Rodgers looked at the whole stadium and said, "I still own y'all." I was like, "Do you take any exception to that, or is just like you look over his career and he's like he's telling the truth? Like you can get mad about it if you want. The man is telling the truth. Like I own y'all." And
What did he
to
say?
the, he said, one, he hadn't heard it, but he's like, two, I just kind of want to focus on my team and try to do everything I can to beat everybody on our schedule, including the Green Bay Packers. And so
It's embarrassing. No,
it's
you got to
embarrassing.
call that. That was like Donovan McNabb dunking on the goalpost before they renovated Soldier Field. If
Yeah,
that's Chicago Bears fans' last memory of Aaron Rodgers in a Green Bay Packer jersey, then just a
yeah,
punch to the gut, just a
yeah.
punch to the gut. One more for the road, you
I
know.
mean, even on that play, like you said, it's not like he's some freakish athlete, right? It's not like he's got speed like Justin Fields or Lamar Jackson, nothing like that. But he scrambles around, then he takes off, and you got Alec Ogletree kind of stuck in no man's land. And he's like, "What do I do? Do I go get A-Rod? Do I drop back?" Ultimately, he did neither. He kind of just watched A-Rod just stroll into the corner of the end zone. Eddie Jackson tried to come over and late and hit him, but it was too late by then. So I just don't know. First of all, I don't know what Alec Ogletree was doing on that play. Alec Ogletree has played well since he's been here. He played well today too, for the most part. But on that play, I just don't know what he's doing. Once you see him break the pocket like that, you got to go get him. You force him to throw the ball. You let Eddie Jackson or Tashawn Gibson or Kendall Vildor or whoever's on the back end deal with that. You can't let him walk into the end zone because you worry about what's happening behind you. You got to go get him, force him to make that throw. Alec Ogletree got caught in the middle of nowhere and did absolutely nothing on that play.
And like you said, Aaron Rodgers isn't the athlete of Justin Fields or
No,
Pat Mahomes or any of those guys. But
nah,
he's not Tom Brady either. Aaron
nah.
Rodgers is a savvy vet. He's definitely more athletic than I think people give him credit for, just because he knows exactly when and how to use that athleticism. He'll bring out that burst when it's needed. But I agree with you, Herb. It's like you can't let Aaron Rodgers scramble 14 yards into the end zone for
No.
a game changing, a game winning touchdown like that. So when you
Yeah,
see the Packers after they took that week one thrashing by the New Orleans Saints, they're 5-0 since, man, and they got the
yeah.
Washington football team next week. Whereas the Bears got to get on the plane and travel on down to Tampa Bay, where it does not
And go
get
see
any,
TB12 in that defense.
you
You
know
talk
what
about
I'm
you talk about that offensive line and struggling. When they get down there and they got to deal with Shaq Barrett and Devin White and them boys, like it's gonna be a problem. Like they better have a game plan set up specifically to be able to deal with that. And I think again, it's got to start with the running game. If they can establish the run early, and they can set up some bootlegs. I think Justin's good on the bootleg. You get him outside the pocket, he's able to survey the field. He can hit Allen Robinson. He can hit Darnell Mooney on some dragging routes. He can hit Cole Kmet in the middle. Cole Kmet had a decent game today. He caught 4 balls. It was good to see him kind of get active in this game. But if the Bears aren't able to establish the run against Tampa, that can get real ugly. They can come back here with like a 45-3 drubbing.
saying?
Now it could definitely get ugly quick next week versus the reigning champs in Tampa Bay. But man, I want to get a little bit more insight on the wide receivers and the offense again, man.
Yeah,
How do we evaluate them? I know didn't have a big play today. You mentioned Cole Kmet. He maybe had his best game of the year. But when you look at Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, do you think that they're do you think that they're giving their quarterback the best chance to win? Are they doing their job out there, you think?
I think they are. I think they're getting to the spots they're supposed to get to. I think that Allen Robinson is never has been and never will be a huge separation guy. He's a 50-50 ball guy. He's going to catch contested catches. He knows how to use his body to shake off defenders, but he's not going to create a whole lot of separation. And again, when you're dealing with a young quarterback who in college used to having Olave beat dudes by 10 yards and he's wide open. You know what open looks like in the Big Ten.
Right,
Open doesn't
right.
look the same way in the NFL, right? And so if you're looking for Allen Robinson to have 5 yards of separation versus any of these corners, whether Jair Alexander is playing or not, that's not going to be the case. So you still got to be able to pull that trigger, and I think that's a part of his development. So I think the wide receivers are doing what they're supposed to do. I think that it's really important for them to take advantage of every opportunity that they do have, because they won't have as many opportunities as maybe they've had in the past. That's not the formula for this Bears team to win. They got to run the ball. They got to be able to establish the run. And then when they do take opportunities to throw the ball, they've got to be effective. And so when you get your opportunity, whether that's Allen Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, or Marquise Goodwin, or whomever it may be, they have to be able to take advantage of those opportunities when they come, because they certainly won't come very often. They'll probably be few and far between. But that's not to say that's not enough, right? It could be enough. Allen Robinson may turn into a guy who's, Devontae Adams caught 4 balls, but he had 90 yards on those 4 balls. You know what I mean? So if you can catch 4 balls, get 90 yards, maybe a touchdown, that's okay. That's sufficient too. I actually asked A-Rob that earlier this week. I think it was just about him kind of settling into the reality that this Bears offense is not really built for him to put up these prolific numbers that he's put up throughout his career. And is he okay with that, especially considering that he is in yet another contract year? And so he says, listen, it's my job to go out and be the best I can every time. And when my number's caught, I'm going to try to make the play. And so I think if he keeps that mentality, Darnell Mooney keeps that mentality, I think they're doing just fine. I don't, when I'm watching the games or reviewing the film, I don't see them doing things wrong. I don't see them, getting jammed at the line and not getting out into their routes. I see them doing what they're supposed to do. But it's just the fact of the matter is they aren't going to have a whole lot of opportunities. But when they do come, they got to be ready to take advantage of them.
No, man, I'm definitely looking at the schedule, wondering, when that next opportunity for a Bears win is going to be.
It's tight.
Now I feel like it may be a race to get to that bye week. But man, hopefully before that, it doesn't get super ugly,
No, it's getting bad. Going into even last week, you knew they had a 5 or 6 game stretch that was going to be really, really challenging for them. And it was like, man, if they can even split over the next 6 games, including last week, you're like, okay, well maybe that'd be okay. And they can still come out of this and still have a possibility of being in the hunt as they head, deeper into the second half. That may be as good as you can hope. They went out and did what they needed to do last week in Vegas and got the win there. Again, you don't expect them to beat the Packers here. Hopeful as they may have been, you don't expect that. And then now they got to go down to Tampa Bay. I certainly don't think you can expect them to get a win there either. And then the schedule just doesn't get any easier. They continue to play against some really, really good teams led by some really, really good quarterbacks. And the Bears is going to have to find a way to play their very best football defensively. They got to continue to stop the run. They got to continue to apply pressure on these quarterbacks. They also have to force some turnovers and help this offense out as much as they can. This offense, it's not that they can't move the ball. They've shown an ability to move the ball, but they got to be able to hit the big play when it's there and take advantage of it. And so you look at, if they're 2 games into this tough 6 game stretch and they're 1-1, if they can be 500 coming out of it, I think that's probably as good as you can hope for them. So they got 4 more coming up. If they can come out of that and say they are, 5-5. And I think they feel okay with 7 games left and see what they can do.
Do you think this is a team that's mentally tough enough to suffer a defeat like this against the Green Bay Packers? You go into Tampa Bay next week, just say you get thrashed, and now that's a 2 game losing streak, against 2 tough teams, obviously. But do you think this is a team that can rebound, or is this a team that you think it could be just an all-out downward spiral from there?
Well, I think fortunately for this Bears team, one, they have some prideful veterans on this team who have done a lot of things in this football league. And you talk about guys like Akeem Hicks or Khalil Mack and Jason Peters. These are guys that are very proud football players, James Trevathan. And so I don't think those guys are going to allow themselves to get so down to where they feel like they can't bounce back. And I think on the other end of the roster, I think these young guys, they just don't know any better. Like they don't know enough to know that we aren't good, right? So it's like, I know Cleveland beat the brakes off us, but we'll be fine next week. That's kind of what they think. And so Justin certainly isn't used to losing. I don't think he's going to get used to losing in a few weeks. And so he'll always feel like they should be able to win the next game. I think, we talk about, all of these young guys, Darnell Mooney, David Michael, these guys, they don't know enough to know like we aren't really that good. They kind of think they are. And I think that serves them well in that particular instance to not think, oh, we can't bounce back from this. So I think the young guys don't know enough, and I think the older guys are just too prideful to think otherwise. So I think that mentally, I think they're tough enough to bounce back. Now, you got to ask the question about Matt Nagy. Right. And not to say that he's mentally weak, but to say, will he panic? Will he start to do things that are outside of their formula for success? I don't know that he's mentally weak, but I will say that he may kind of panic and do something that isn't in their best interest. Like he might take over play calling again from Bill Lazor, right? He might start wanting to throw the ball around. They have another game where today they score 14 points. They go out there and they score 10 points against Tampa Bay. Doesn't Matt Nagy come home and say, "Hey, I'm taking over play calling, and we're going to throw the ball all around the yard"? Well, that would be a mistake. That would be a mistake because that's again not their formula. So I think when we talk about mental toughness, you got to start with the head coach. If he's mentally tough to stay the course, I think his players will be mentally tough to stay the course as well.
Man, bro, on that note, I'm looking forward to another week of practice, man. The guys got to get ready to go to Tampa and face the champs. They got to have a chip on their shoulder after this one, bro. But
They
man,
must.
you know, we looking at the football guys like you may have to do us a solid on this one.
It's going to take a lot, man. It's going to take a lot. I don't think that you'll find any analyst or reporter, not locally here in Chicago and not nationally, that are going to pick the Chicago Bears to go down to Tampa and come home with the W. That being said, it's not impossible. It's not impossible if you can get after Tom Brady, put some pressure on him. That gives you an opportunity. We saw Jalen Johnson was able to show himself well against the likes of Devontae Adams today. If he can go down and do the same thing versus Mike Evans, then that'll give the Bears an opportunity. And all you can ask for is an opportunity. And then it's about, can you seize the opportunities in those 5 and 6 plays that can swing a ball game in one way or the other? But that's going to start. They have to start fast. They got to be able to run the ball early and often in the football game. That defense has to shut down that run game, make that Tampa Bay offense one-dimensional, which is not easy. That Leonard Fournette is playing really, really good ball right now. They're able to run the ball at a pretty good clip down there in Tampa Bay. So it's not going to be easy. I think the Bears have a very, very tall task if they want to come back with a victory. That being said, it's possible. The formula doesn't change for this team. Stop the run, establish the run, force some turnovers, take advantage of opportunities in the passing game when they are there. If they can do all those things, they'll be in the game. They won't get blown out. If they don't do any of those things, if any one of those things doesn't happen, if they can't establish their run offensively, or they can't stop Tampa Bay's run defensively, if they don't force any turnovers, they don't get any pressure on Tom Brady, they'll get blown right out of Raymond James Stadium, and they'll come back here not feeling good about themselves at all.
There you have it, man. I'm ready to see these guys put in a week of work, see what you got for us this week, Herb, and
yeah,
take a better effort. Take some renewed energy down to Raymond James and see if you can escape out of there with some type of W, man. Because the W is all that matters. Winning ugly, winning whatever you want to call
don't
it.
Matter.
W, the check in that W column is all that matters, man.
Don't matter at all. We'll get up to Hallis Hall tomorrow. We'll hear what Matt Nagy has to say after he's had an opportunity to review the film. I'm sure he'll come out a little bit more optimistic after watching the film, and we'll see. He'll talk about how they just got to get ready to get back to work and prepare for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He'll say all the right things, and I think the players will come out and say all the right things as well. I think they'll prepare as though they expect to go down to Tampa and get a win. Will they actually go down there and do it? We got to wait another week for that, but we shall see, man.
All right, man. Before we get out of here, man, we have to shout out the only team that I feel like had a chance at winning the ship anytime soon.
CP3
arena. The real CP3 brought the ship back to the crib. Shout out to the Chicago Sky for bringing that championship trophy back to the soil.
Yes.
Kalia Copper KFC was finals MVP. I felt like Courtney Vandersloot was my finals MVP, but I know they don't care who the finals MVP is. All that matters is them bringing that ship home. Shout out to Coach Wade for showing and proving. T, you remember when we were there for his introductory press conference?
Absolutely.
He said that he was bringing the championship home to the Sky. I remember in 2014, like I tweeted, man, I've been there from the beginning. I remember when I used to hoop with the girls at Lakeshore Athletic Club, and I feel like when they made it in 2014 with Elena Della Don, it was premature. They wasn't ready. You got to take those bumps and bruises and grow. And I feel like now with Candace, I feel like they had the perfect team, man, up and down, skill-wise, athleticism, size. I feel like that was the perfect team. And the record, they were 16-16 during the season, but the record definitely didn't, show who that team
reflect how cold they really were
at all.
No, they had a perfect team and they put together a great run in the playoffs. Do you think CP3 is done or what?
No, CP3 got to come back for one more time. Double it up, CP. Do what ain't never been done before.
Hey,
he got a lot. She got a lot left in the tank, man. She's got a lot left in the tank, bro.
You know what? That's an interesting question because I feel like, of course, we all know Candace Parker, has another career that's sitting on ice that she's, will be very successful in.
No
But
doubt.
man, to come back and do it here with that group, I'm sure it was very special for her. You see, she ran straight to the crowd, like all of her family that was there.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Yes, sir.
Crowd at Wintrust is off the chain.
No
I
doubt.
feel like that is how we're supposed to get down here at the crib. Shout out to all the fans that supported them this whole season. I know the WNBA fans get a lot of flack, but man, they held it down for the Sky all year long. I salute y'all.
No, that's huge, man, for them to have that type of turnout, especially, it was just kind of bad luck that it turned out that when Chicago is hosting the finals game in the WNBA, it happens to be at the very same time as the Bears Packers, and Bears Packers that's going to
What's up with
supersede.
that?
Yeah, that's usually going to supersede anything in sports in Chicago, and so for them to have to play at that particular time was tough. I know that they obviously didn't know for sure that the Sky would be in the finals when they set the schedule, but
Right.
they did know it was going to be on Sunday afternoon in the fall. And so I think that's a little bit tough. But either way, the Sky got it done. Salute to them. The Bears did not get it done. They fall at home again to the Packers. Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers come to Soldier Field and rip another victory away from the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears fall to 3-3. The Packers are alone atop the NFC North, as they tend to be most of the time. We'll see if the Bears can bounce back next week in Raymond James Stadium. Another tough game against the defending Super Bowl champions led by Tom Brady down in Tampa Bay. Another tough game. We'll see if they can rebound and come back victorious. But that has been the post-game wrap-up from live here at Soldier Field, reporting for the Bigs Media. My name is Herb, along with the Bigs Media OGs, TG. We'll catch y'all next time.
Peace.